I'm not sure what that was, but it did not sound good.
There we go. Hi.
Sounded like plastic tearing.
Oh, it was her chair rubbing against something is all it was.
Okay. All right. You know, chat's already been kind of crazy here.
Not surprising. I go up. Okay. You never hang around for the show, do you, bud?
Non-standard bandits. Yeah, for some of you, it's going to be nerd heaven.
Nerd. You're
Nerds.
a fucking nerd, and no one likes you, and no one likes you.
Where's that from?
A Hot Tub Time Machine.
That's right. You've quoted that madness before.
Right.
Engineer put me in a rubber room. A rubber room with rats. Rats make you crazy.
What if they're rubber rats?
Rubber.
I don't know. You were crazy once. I think you were crazy more than once.
Well, or once and then just never stopped.
Full of rats. Is anybody else creeped out by rats?
No.
By rats?
By rats in the wild.
No.
Not terribly.
They don't really freak me out when, I see them and they're like pet rats or something like that. If I see those red eyes and those, what are they called? Norway brown rats. Those are some mean motherfuckers.
No.
They creep me out big time. You're crazy once and young. Am crazy? Yeah, I believe that. I believe that part completely. Matt, you stay up really late to watch us. I appreciate that.
Tonight he's going to go. We're talking about what? See ya.
Matt says lots of rats. We thought we had a rat problem raiding the bins. Turns out it was actually the magpies that were doing it.
I believe it.
Magpies are responsible for everything. You're wasting your time, Terry.
I've been told that many times over my life.
I guess it's with the hair removal. But
what?
I was using the
defuzzer.
The defuzzer, the tape to get the fur off of me.
Yeah, you're right. You're right in that sense. I thought you were talking about something else, Rick, and I was trying to figure that one out. Because he's always a waste of time, but that's beside the point. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Dev Robot Society. I am Paul E. Cooley. Joining me today, Veronica Jaguar and Terry Mixon. How the hell are you, fine folks?
Good. Present.
I am not calling roll. When
Here,
do I
Mr.
ever
Cooley.
call roll?
It's where you raise your hand. Objection!
To what? Okay, you've already derailed the show. Veronica, before this gets any more awkward, please tell us what the hell you've been up to.
Oh, let's see. Writing. I got writing done this week, so that was good. Conversations sparked ideas, and now I have more outlines for stories that I do not have time allocated to write, such as my life. Delivered audiobooks, that was nice. So and it's always nice when you deliver the books and the author goes, "Hey, so when can you record the next one? Because I just finished it." I'm like, I will get back to you on that one.
Yeah. That's a good problem to have.
Happy to do that. I will line those suckers up, and it means I get to do more Welsh accents.
Oh, no. Matt, expect
it's
more
very
calls.
light. It's very light. And luckily the proofers, I gave them all of the notes and all the pronunciations, and they caught me on all, and there was only one. Matt, you would be so proud of me. I only had one instance where I didn't say "yer." I said "here." Nope. Here. I have it all set through. That is a flag me for that in the dialogue. So I've trained a proofer to, keep an ear for a Welsh accent. But it flows and it's good. At least the author's happy, which is all I ever want. So that's pretty much. Oh, and bowling. Still living in the bowling alley 4 days a week. Still fighting with parents. That's loads of fun too.
It sounds like it. I don't want to ask.
High school children have. So there is always a Dunning-Kruger epidemic among high schoolers, especially high school boys, and parents are oblivious to it. And if you understand that high-level jab, you are my people. If you don't, here's Leo. He will stand in.
Which is the other cat?
It's Sassy. Move,
okay.
Sassy.
I must be the center of attention.
Xander, calm down, man. Calm down. We're getting there. Jeez.
So, Xander, did you find a copy of High Guard? Do you have it? Do you have it?
Yeah. And no, not quite English light. I thought that. No, it is not English light. It is different. It is different. There are similarities, but it is still different. So
It's like when hiring people, anyone who says they know everything is just showing how little they really know.
exactly.
Oh, I love that line. What does God need with a starship? That's one of the best lines from any of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Quite possibly the best.
Yeah.
Well, Terry, what have you been doing?
Writing. Making stories.
Making stories.
No.
And doing ship designs.
Doing ship designs.
How fortuitous.
And I had a colonoscopy in the middle of it.
Well, as long as you weren't doing all three at the same time, I think you're okay.
Terry's having the colonoscopy while he's talking into his mic. It's just it anesthetize his colon. He doesn't feel anything, but he's sitting there reading, just ignoring the slurping sounds coming back from the machine. No? Okay. You know where you can shove that idea. Thank you, Matt. Yeah.
Well, they didn't find anything terrible, and they've moved me off of the 5-year to 7 to 10 years to the next one.
Awesome.
Oh, look at you leveling up. Good job. The things we celebrate.
They found
hinky
during my 50-year. They found hinky polyps that they had to take out, and they weren't sure about. So they put me on the 5-year, and now after having 2 clear in a row, they said, yeah, okay, we'll extend you back out a little bit.
Nice.
Matt says confusing Welsh and English can be fatal, especially in a Welsh pub. Yeah, I imagine it'd be fatal in an English pub too if you get that wrong.
Boo, Rick.
Yes. Ugh.
Sorry. All the sympathies and ugh. No. There's no.
Jeez.
No, they're I never want to kink shame, but probably not. That's a very niche, audience right there.
I didn't find anything erotic about the entire process, so yeah, I'm not going to fall into that particular category.
Okay then.
And yes, Michelle, it is a rite of passage when they first go, yeah, you're old enough. You're like, great, fantastic. I guess I have to deal with this, but then you have a story to share with everyone.
Hey now. Not even gonna repeat that. That just doesn't look out. Xander, it is not a colonoscopy.
Paul doesn't need to have a colonoscopy. He's got his head up his ass. He can look for his own damn polyps.
That's right. You just hand me a flashlight. I'm good to go. Yeah, for time you're not talking about butt stuff. Can we move on from this, please? Jesus. What else have you been up to besides causing an uproar in chat?
That's it.
It's strange that you brought up the topic of ship design because I spent like the last 2 days. Calm down, man. You're going to suffer from premature
I'm not going to give.
inshipulation.
Xander gets no ships until he tells me if he found his copy of High Guard. We're going to have to boot him if he doesn't give me an answer.
As I was saying, I spent the last couple days looking over ships to use in the Medusa Zone 2, Electric Jiggly Boo. That's what that's what we're calling. That's a secret name for it. I don't know what I'm going to actually call it. So I found the 2 ships I need. I'm probably going to find some more that I'm going to have. So this should be kind of fun. But I've gotten very little writing done. I've got so much clerical crap done though this week, and I ported something to Rust, so I'm learning Rust, and it's fun and challenging, and I lose track of time when I'm doing it, which means I'm enjoying it. So I needed the cleanser, so to speak. Matt says, "Oops, wrong word. That would have been a couliectomy, wouldn't it?" Yes.
Isn't a couliectomy where they remove the coulis from it? I mean, that sounds, pretty straightforward.
I don't know if I want to be removed. What if I'm not cool with this? I mean, parasites don't really like being ripped away from their hosts. It just doesn't really happen that way. Unfortunate name. The ultimate starship is the Enterprise D. Fight me.
Enterprise is kind of wonky.
Oh God, we are not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that because we have to.
Give me
move
one of those
on.
Imperial Star Destroyers, the really big one that Vader had. Now we're talking something. Super Star Destroyer. I'm going to start a fight.
You already did. Right now, there are like 4 or 5 people desperately typing into chat who have never typed into chat before to prove you wrong. They're signing into YouTube right now just to do that.
Froth.
How dare you?
Couliectomy is for everyone.
Okay, fine. If you have your coolie removed, do you need to get radiation still to make sure that you got all of it?
Somehow I think applying radiation would just make it metastasize.
I
Maybe
think
like the black.
I think coolie is automatically metastasized.
As I was saying, I just found it funny because you brought up the idea of ship designs because you have been totally nutcase crazy showing us stuff and everything else in our private chat. So it seemed perfectly cool that, is it Veronica that brought up Starship plans? Okay.
Yes, please.
Well, Veronica brought the show idea, everything. So I am not responsible for the topics today.
No, but you're responsible for the rest of it.
No, I thought it was a good idea to take advantage of the expertise that's already here for a bunch of sci-fi authors who do write a lot of ship-based stuff, and besides, let the person who was once a naval architect just kind of sit back and go, "Ooh, shiny," and enjoy yourself.
I sent her all the links to the Starship parts to make deck plans. We may not see her for weeks. That's why she wants the 2 weeks off, Paul, so she can design deck plans.
I'd respect her if that was the case.
I could.
Oh my God, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm just going to leave that alone. So who's writing science fiction?
Me. I'm writing sci-fi.
I'm not current. Well, I guess I sort of currently am.
Sort of currently are.
Although mine is based on planet Earth, it does never break orbit in this particular case. So I have no need to talk about starships. I mean, how many starships have I actually built in my mind and then have my characters wander?
Well, it's a good thing that the design rules cover things like space stations as well.
Oh, I have never built any of those either in my brain. That's something that we don't do in sci-fi, right? Nobody does that. Nobody actually plays with ships and ideas of ship-to-ship combat and the kind of design considerations they need to go into what it does, regardless of how its drive works, the kinds of things you need on a ship, the kinds of differences between a hard point and a soft point, yada, 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 yada.
Who says we
Actually,
don't?
technically, it's the difference between a hard point and a firm point.
Firm
if you really
point,
want to
okay,
get into
fine.
it.
If we're going to get really technical,
You're
which
gonna
I
get
guess we
really
really
technical.
are. So what the hell have you been doing to lead to this conversation?
To lead to this conversation, I am in the process of converting a 300-page Word document filled with designs that I have made into a web page. That's what led to this particular conversation. I
Yes,
design
that
a
is-
lot of things.
That's what led
I
to this.
have, in fact, designed a lot of things.
But you started designing these for Traveler, right? The Traveler
I
games
did.
you were running?
For the Traveler, well, it's not necessarily for the Traveler role-playing game they're running. Somebody will present an idea, or I see a gap in the ships that the company Mongoose provided, and I say, you know, I could make a ship that could fill this gap, and then I'll create the outlying type ships that do these sort of things. I get joy in making a ship that does something that cannot currently be done easily with the ships that are published.
Interesting. Okay. Now, why is that important exactly?
Well, if you're asking why it's important to me, it's a hobby. So it's not technically that important to me. If you're saying why it could be important to someone that's writing science fiction, if you don't really have a grasp of how your ship works, then what do you do when you break it? How do you really know what happens when things go wrong?
And how to describe
Or even
the damage
basically,
around it?
how do you know how large your ship needs to be? There's a lot that goes into designing a spaceship or a small craft or a space station that can firm up ideas in your head of exactly what you're dealing with. If it's all vague, you can't write about it. You need details. Even if you never share those details with your readers, you need to have some details so that you know what you're dealing with.
I haven't never put out a diagram of Mira, which is the huge ship the Derelict saga is mostly focused on. But I wrote down and I gave myself a couple of views, different views of decks and etc. So I knew which ways to go, so I didn't end up going in a circle. If people followed what I was going from, right to left down the corridors, it wouldn't look like it didn't know where it was going, or that the ship was just basically curling in on itself, which would be just not the way it's described to begin with. So having some idea of how I wanted it laid out also allowed the characters to move within those spaces. And then if I needed to, I could break through a bulkhead or something else to get them into another part of the ship. Maybe it was damaged that way. So there are ways that you can do that, but you have to have an idea of what they are and what the ship looks like and everything else, at least in your brain.
It's true. And there's a difference between designing a ship and laying out a deck plan for it. And looking at the amount of time we have to talk about ship design, I think that After Dark is going to be deck plans.
Yes.
Oh no, oh God, this is going to be bad.
Well, y'all are right. It's hard to. You have to know what your ship can do and the interior layout, because if 90% of the action takes place on that ship, you should know your surroundings. If it's a huge ship how many people, what's the skeleton crew on it? Can it take passengers?
Yeah.
Does it take passengers?
Yep.
Are passengers separate from the crew? How do people get around the ship? Are there places where people congregate? Because unless you're talking like some, little cargo transport independently owned, people are not going to congregate on the bridge. It's just not going to happen. They're going to be other places. And then, is it hauling cargo? What kind of cargo? Where is that cargo going to go? Is it on the outside? Is it on the inside? Is that the possibility to have the cargo strapped to it?
Mm-hmm.
And how fast can it go? Is there some kind of faster than light travel or jump drive travel? How does that work? Can you kind of hand wave how it's supposed to work? If it works, how does it affect the crew? How does it affect the ship? What are the capabilities for that ship? How far can it go? How far can it get stranded before it really can't get back?
How much energy does it have to get off the starting blocks?
Yes. What kind of energy does it need to have? How does it get replenished?
What is its power supply?
What is this power supply?
All of these lovely things that, yeah, I'm like, oh, I want to know all about that, because if you're going to write about a ship or about a crew, your crew on the ship is your...
It's your home.
It's your home. It's almost, in a lot of cases, it is another character. It's a setting, but it's also another character. And you got to know what it is.
I thought we might get away without this reference ever coming up. Unfortunately, I was wrong.
But Rick, it's so lost without you.
In other news, Matt says, where's the cargo? How much room does it need? What's its mass? There we go. How long does it take for the aliens inside the cargo to escape and reduce the crew to spare parts? You know, I would be reading over your notes for Extinction, and you brought up some very good points, but I'm a little terrified that you read out the force calculations. I'm a little terrified that you figured that shit out. That really scared me.
I'm intrigued.
Oh, let's just say the end ends with a bang. I will go no further than that.
Sweet.
So starships have, if it's a fighting vehicle, what does it have that's necessary besides fuel and ammunition?
Well, you're starting farther down in the process than you need to. You need to ask a couple of questions in the very beginning. Who is building this ship? What is its purpose?
Yes.
And what is your budget? Because all of those things are very important for building a ship. A military vessel is not the same thing as a merchant freighter. A starship...
Bubba's Discount Space RV.
Mm-hmm. A starship is not the same thing as a small craft, in-system craft,
right,
that doesn't have jump drives or faster than light capability. A space station is different than all of those things. If they're being built for civilian purposes, they have to have a reason for existing. Is it to generate profit? Is it to house people? Is it to be a mining facility? All of these things are necessary before you can even know what kind of things need to go into that particular design. And once you have that, then you need to start asking questions like, what is the technological level that you're looking at? For example, Traveler has varying numbers, technological levels that enable the higher you go, the more advanced systems you have. And sometimes you'll use those higher level technology to build something. They're more expensive, but it's a trade-off. You get, for that extra money, you get extra ability to do things. Or you may decide to make something that is of a lower technology level so it can be maintained wherever you go. All of those sort of things are very critical when you're designing a ship, because you have to have at least a very good idea in your head of what you want to accomplish with this ship, space station, whatever it is, before you start laying out the pieces parts, or you don't know which pieces parts you need to add to it.
That's good.
Inside the live channel, I dropped a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet is a design sheet that someone on the Mongoose forums put together for building ships using Traveler. And it is a very comprehensive sheet, and it breaks down all the type of technological stuff that you're doing in a very easy way to separate out, like, this is the hull, these are staterooms, these are weapon systems, these are your sensors, this is your bridge. All of those are on different tabs. And that makes figuring out and getting in your head what you need to accomplish a little bit easier, because it can be overwhelming, the vast number of choices that you need to make if you don't break it down into parts.
Yeah, I guess if you've been doing the game long enough, you don't realize that you're actually doing that when you do it. I think because we know that there's going to have to be a mining thing on this ship, because guess what? It's a mining ship. Why
You got
would
to
they
have a
weapons?
refinery. You may have smelters. You may have to have, you've got to have room for the crew of those particular pieces parts as well, because refiners and smelters, they need crew members.
And they also need to be where the staterooms are. They need to be well away from the working parts, like the refinery and mining things, in case something goes wrong there. You want them to be, you basically use the other part as a lifeboat, stuff like that, so that they have a chance of actually escaping if there's some kind of explosion back there, or they need to dump it. It's little stuff like that. And you were talking about like landing craft. Those are kind of important too, or can be.
Escape pods, those are important.
And then everybody wants fighters, right? You got to have, what does a small attack ship look like?
It is small, it is fast, and it is armed. Those are the key criteria for a small fighting ship. Speed is life, my friend.
Is it though? Wouldn't maneuverability be more of a thing?
In Traveler, that is both the same sort of thing. They are lumped together.
Ah, okay.
There's no separate agility sort of thing for your fighter craft. It's all lumped together under speed.
Interesting.
The higher the thrust you have, the more maneuverable you are. Space combat in Traveler takes place over 6-minute segments. So it's not, happening, lightning quick.
Rick says small and fast are mutually exclusive in a spaceship.
This is true to an extent, but the maneuver drives in Traveler get smaller with the hull size. Now, if you wanted to take something like reaction thrusters to add on top of your maneuver drives, then you can achieve some truly tremendous amount of speeds. But be warned, your maneuver drives is what counters the thrust and gives you the survivability of those high accelerations, and it doesn't cover for extra stuff like your reaction thrusters. If you toss in 6 Gs of reaction thruster, you're going to be plastered to that back bulkhead. just accept it.
You'll be alive, but you're going to be stretched. It'll be fun.
Or you'll be alive for a little while.
And
Fighter pilots can stand that sort of thing for a while.
For a while.
For a while.
What does a space station need to look like?
It's going to be big. There's very few small space stations.
Is it gonna? Are you assuming in orbit or just?
Doesn't necessarily have to be. There could be a space station in the asteroid belt that is used for processing refined materials that are coming out. Miners come in, they sell their materials, the refiners refine it, and they go on about their business.
But are you going to have different design considerations?
Sure.
Okay.
When you're in orbit, you may want to have a different setup as far as communications than you have when you're in space and farther away from everything. If you're in orbit around planet, you can use satellites that are already there. If you are in space, you're going to have to come up with something a little different. Let's take a moment and look at the spreadsheet and at the bottoms there. You'll see that it starts with the hull, and there's a lot of choices you can do. You can have stealth hulls. You can do other things. If you're trying to have a spy ship, that's a totally different sort of thing than potentially a regular warship. But you can see, looking at the various options that they have going on this, that you can build just about anything using the design specifications of this. And using a role-playing game's design specifications is actually helpful, because a lot of work has gone into it. As a writer, it's helpful because somebody has spent a lot of time going through this to make sure that it at least makes sense.
Exactly.
Right.
Do not reinvent if you don't have to.
And then they're also giving you rules gravitational rules, all of the acceleration rules, etc. Things that basically give you the confines in which you gotta write everything to go against. So yeah, the rules would be a good thing to have. Take a look at my sheets. Really, Antoine? Miners could use towboats to take what they find to the space station.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
They absolutely could. If you're advanced enough, you can have drone ships that all their job is to have a robotic pilot, and it goes from point A to point B, taking its supply of ore in and dropping it off and coming back for more. Easily done. Or you can get your cousin Joe Bob doing it, because Joe Bob's a jerk off, and you'd rather have him off of the station anyway.
That's what I was thinking. What about the scenario where Bubba Joe Bob is fighting the robots to make sure that he remains afloat? Meanwhile, the robots are trying to basically stray into his position and everything else, and then thus he's got to get out his old plasma rifle and go to work.
Oh, I think you're stretching it too far. The robots are just trying to take his job.
Exactly.
He's annoyed because they're trying to put him out of work.
That too. They're
not trying to kill him. They just want his money.
They want his productivity possibilities. Whatever that means. I was thinking it was space stations where people are going to live. I guess maybe we should call them space cities rather than space stations. Now, probably most people have seen Babylon 5 or know what that is. And basically, the Babylon 5 or the Babylon ships were essentially massive, massive space stations, but they had artificial gravity done by rotation. So the whole thing was so big that it rotated, and you did not notice. What were they at? 0.8 Gs or something like that? I can't remember. This place had parks. It had agrarian zones. It had a black market. It had basically anything that you could imagine a city would have. They had to have that. And if you think about it, putting yourself in space, gravity, no gravity, whatever, depending on what your mercantile system is and how people barter for whatever it is that they're getting, including air. Thank you, The Expanse. Air could possibly be one of those things people have to pay for out of their check. So could the fuel, just like today, that's gas. And then, think about it being gas versus, your energy bill. It's basically one of those weird ass things. But is that something that you got to worry about with the space city? What kind of places do they need for the populace not to go nuts?
If your science fiction story has artificial gravity, that provides one way to get them what they need. If it doesn't, or if you're a cheapskate and you don't want to spend the money for it, then you're going to have that artificial gravity generated by centrifugal force.
Yeah. Yep. If the technology exists, yes.
Well, if you're in space, you have the technology to generate centrifugal force.
No. I was talking about artificial gravity, not centrifugal force.
Yes.
Let's see. Control systems, interfaces might differ in stranger tech systems.
The more advanced the computer system, the more things that it might be able to do.
I bring up interfaces because those are less interesting on their face, but in the fiction they can change everything. After I saw Dead Space, I couldn't ever look at a user interface system the same way. And I couldn't ever, because of the way that they imagined holographic communication to go on, where basically it's a hologram that floats in front of you and is cast by the suit. That was just the coolest shit ever. And of course the color scheme was diabolically great. And as in, it was blanched out, it was all greens and blues. It was perfect. I cannot get that interface out of my skull, and pretty much aped it to a certain extent with the Derelict saga. That's what I think a holographic display should look like. But how do they communicate on the city? How do they communicate when they're in space? Terry brought this up. Do they have faster than light communication?
In Traveler, they do not. You are limited to the speed of a ship leaving from one system to another to carry news.
Ooh.
Yep. That's something that I have. It's either the ship's communications carry, or you have beacons that are set up, and certain beacons are set for everyone to use, and some are not. And it winds up being a pay to play.
In Traveler, their faster than light system is called the jump drive, where it takes the ship out of normal space, puts it into jump space, which is some alternate reality, whatever, where basically you are it. There's nothing else in there with you. You are alone. And you're in there for a week, and you pop out at your destination unless something terrible goes wrong, in which case you may end up somewhere else. If you misjump, you could go somewhere else or perhaps even be killed and never seen again. But the drives go from jump 1 to jump 6. The higher the jump rating, the larger the drives, the more expensive, and the more fuel they require. That's one of the big limiting factors in Traveler ships that are jump capable, is that you've got to balance how much your fuel is taking up out of that space. Because a jump 6 ship is probably, I'm going to just make a guess here off the top of my head, 80% fuel storage.
It's a flying gas tank.
It's a flying gas tank. Now, it still only takes a week to get there. So jumping 6 parsecs, that's fine if you got J6 drive. It still takes you a week.
Yeah,
so if you want a ship to go fast, or have these amazing capabilities, you need to be able to explain the power and the fuel capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a warp drive with dilithium crystals and a core, you're probably carrying tanks of fuel around.
Now, one of the things that the Traveler system does have in their high guard is they have exotic technology. This is for stuff that is not meant to necessarily be in the Traveler universe, but it's things like warp drive or even a time drive to take your ship in different ways and make them not standard drives. But the technology is enumerated in the rules, and the spreadsheet does cover them.
Okay. Rowdy says, I like Dune, where they bend time and space to travel. That's the other thing I was going to get at. I was hoping you'd cover is distance. How long does it take to get somewhere? And I mean, if you think about it, if you're trying to get from here to Neptune in a decent clip, you'd have to run at some ridiculous amount of velocity we'd never get to these days.
That is completely untrue. Now, maneuver drives inside Traveler, they don't use direct thrust. It uses manipulation of gravity to make that happen. So I could build a small craft that has 6 Gs of acceleration, and you would be getting that 6 Gs of constant acceleration. It would still take you a bit to get somewhere,
all right,
but it is not slow.
Well,
you would have to be the fly halfway out, flip over, and decelerate to bleed off your stuff, but that can be done via a spreadsheet easily enough.
Well, I'm saying if in a traditional thriller, for instance, you could have a character go from continent to continent within 24 hours. You can't write that same kind of thing if it takes 6 weeks to get there.
Now, there is an instance, there are circumstances inside Traveler where it makes more sense to use a jump-capable ship to jump to a different part of the system and take a week to get there in jump space than it does to fly in normal space.
That's weird.
Well, it's big. Star systems are large, my friend.
Oh yeah, this is very, very true.
If you're going from one far side of it to the other far side of it, you're going to spend more than a week in normal space getting there. It might make more sense to you to go into jump space.
And no human shall harm a cat in Ulthar. I just read that, Antoine. Let's see. It was like the theoretical, I can't even pronounce that, Alcubierre drive. It's great apart from the power requirements and that minor need for exotic matter.
The newest theories on those have reduced the power requirements significantly, though they still need that exotic matter.
Time to invent a Stargate.
Yes, but then you got to be like Stargate Universe. You've got to have a ship out there planting them that goes, That's a long, hard journey there.
Oh, how would you like to be on that? Alien
Then you're
Earth
looking at
brings that up.
generation ships.
Alien Earth brings that up where they're sending people
Mhm.
out for 65 years.
Yeah. And if you're looking at distance, so while y'all were talking, I realized I'm like, I've done these calculations at some point. I know I did these. I found the calculations. Because I like detail. If I have detail, then I know what I can mess with. And so people talk about traveling a light year. A light year, for the record, is 5.88 times 10 to the 12th miles. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And then if you're looking at, oh gosh, like I literally pulled that, and then I did research on a standard. What is impulse speed? Because watching enough Star Trek, you go, what's impulse speed? Well, impulse speed is one. Oh goodness. It's a percentage of the speed of light. It is not the speed of light, obviously.
God, I hope not.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's so the impulse is a quarter of the speed of light. And then warp 1, warp 2. So warp 1 is obviously speed of light. Warp 2, however, is 8 times the speed of light because it increases.
Oh, is that how they do it? I never knew that.
It's
So
a cube.
cumulative.
The warp
It's a
drive is
cube.
a thing.
Yeah. So when I was doing this, I was like, okay, for my purposes, I can't have what I'm doing go to warp 10. It's a dinky little ship. Or it's a really huge ship and it's got to go relatively slowly if you're talking about a generation ship. But what that tells me is, okay, feasibly, if I have a ship yay size and it's going to go this max speed to be maintainable for a generation ship like cryosleep,
Yep.
how far is it going to go into generations? What's the maximum distance that I can expect? And then where can I have stuff break? If I'm sending 3 out at certain intervals, when are they going? What are the waves going to look like when they get there?
What
So
about the ship having human custodians versus automated custodians?
yes,
What do the shifts look like?
what do the shifts look like? How many are they allowed to have children? Or are you just when you retire, do you just wake up the next crew and they get, you get a year of onboarding, and then at the end of that onboarding, well, you retire or what have you.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of things, but I mean, for my purpose, I had to figure out the distance, and knowing where you have to go and how far you have to get. That's often that first constraint, and that can tell you what choices do you have for your propulsion, what choices do you have for your fuel, then how big does the ship need to be? Because if I want a big ship, I have to trade speed. I really
put a
do.
spreadsheet into Live for calculating travel times inside a regular space using various thrust levels. Hey now!
Dad
Kitties
is
are
mad.
misbehaving. Let's see, means FTL is possible once you've done its sublight first. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a central point on a shorter road a while back. You could create a wormhole, but the two ends have to start together, and you have to move the end of the wormhole physically.
Correct.
That would suck.
Now, I went through the possibility of writing a story like that because when I was reading the articles on doing exactly that sort of thing, it was talking about if you then take one of the ends of the wormhole and you accelerate it to near the speed of light so that time runs differently and run it for a good long while and then bring it back to the same place that you came from, then the time you go through it, you're actually going through time as well. You'll enter one end and come out a different time on the other. So you could go into the past, you could go into the future. How
think you
weird
broke
would
my
that
brain.
be?
I wonder. We need to mute Veronica when she starts
I'm sorry,
slamming the keyboard.
My kid is at a bowling tournament and she started out poorly, but now she's only 15 pins out of second place, and I'm trying to figure out how many games are left.
Nice.
So, sorry.
Getting back to Starship design.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with talking about this. Once you've got all the pieces, parts that you want, then it becomes a balancing act of, okay, I've got a ship that's X amount of tons. In Traveler, it's displacement tons. It doesn't matter what the weight of something is. It's how much it displaces that matters. So you could have a cargo hold full of lead ingots and it would not matter. It only cares how large the ship is, the size of the ship. So you've got 100 displacement tons, say, in your ship. Once you have all the ideas of what you want, now you need to start paring things down to get everything to fit inside the hull. And you've got to start deciding, okay, my budget. Can my budget support the things that I want to get? Or do I need to start cutting some corners here and there? One of the things that I did for designing some Traveler ships is there are rules for creating overpowered engines so that if you are carrying something larger than yourself, say you've got an external docking clamp, you might be able to jump with another ship attached to you. And I said, that's a great idea. How high can I jack that up? How high can I get that? And I designed a bunch of freighters that I call pod freighters that have self-mobile pods that have their own little robot pilots, and they move themselves with small maneuver drives that a ship can carry. If it doesn't have a lot of jump fuel on board, might have up to 6 times its own mass, its own displacement in cargo pods attached to the outside. And that's something that's never been done in the rules, but it's legal. And so I designed ships that fit that legality. That's a gap that I saw in the rules and said, I can exploit that and make something brand new. I should post that link in there as well. I have some of the ship designs already converted to the web, including the Atlas pod tenders, merchant pods. So let me see, where did I do with that? There it is. Oh, I already posted the link. I posted the link to the ship designs already in there. If somebody goes to that web page, they will see the Atlas merchant tenders of various flavors listed out there. And listed under, in the description, you can see how many pods of what size they carry. But that's what brings me joy in this, is bringing to life something that has not been envisioned before. Or taking a terrible design and making it better.
Rowdy says bowling alley design in starships. Zero gravity bowling.
Zero gravity bowling, that's basically cannon fire.
Yeah, and I can tell you right now, it would just be string pin setters and not actual pin setters. That would make the most sense, because you don't want too many moving parts.
That does bring up the interesting question for long voyages, say for 2 weeks or something like that. What the hell does the crew do?
They have entertainment systems. They have common areas where they can get together and do whatever they're going to do, and their own individual staterooms that they can go for privacy when they just are done, when they're done with everybody else. Although on military ships, you're going to find, well, frankly, if you're not a passenger, most ships will have the vast majority of their crew double bunking. So there'll be 2 people in a stateroom.
Except for maybe the officers.
My design choices are, I'll give 3 single staterooms for the senior officers, everybody else double bunks.
Okay, here's a good question. How do you lay out each floor? Like, how do you go about the visual layout of the ship's hallways and rooms and how things are layered and such?
That would be something that we'll talk about in After Dark when we get to deck plans.
Mm-hmm.
When we start giving corridors and bulkheads some love.
Yeah. As far as Traveler goes, a stateroom is listed as a regular medium stateroom. Middle class stateroom is listed as 6 displacement tons. But when you look at the description of it, it's only 4 displacement tons in size. And the other 2 displacement tons go to corridors and other things that service that.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Man, I never would have gotten this technical with Mira and survived. No way. It would have required math.
Luckily,
wrong
there's a
with math?
spreadsheet to do all the math for you.
I like the
Would've-
math.
It would have required a lot of math.
Pick one of the ships in the web thing there and look at the summary, because that's what is displayed when you bring it up for the summary.
Yeah.
Those are a breakdown of the different things that ship has, whatever that ship may be. And each of those items was considered by me before I included it. They serve a purpose. Everything on board your ship should serve a purpose. If it doesn't, then it probably doesn't need to be there.
Because then realistically, you're taking up weight. You're taking up weight and space
And
that
spending money.
and spending money that should be done. Because when you're putting your ship together, you have a limited number of resources, because no one is going to spend too much money on something they don't need when putting that stuff together is super expensive, or when they know they're going to have to fix and replace things. Everything on a ship has a purpose, if not two purposes.
Matt says, if you need a hand with the math, Paul, I thoroughly enjoy embracing technicality, as you probably now know from my comments. Yes. Like I said,
Math
did
is
you enjoy
hard.
the end? That's the question.
Maths is fun.
See, layout of each floor. Apart from entertainment systems, do we really need to know how sewage is taken care of?
That is included with the staterooms. It's part of the budgeting for the staterooms.
But it does help to know how the ship manages it, because do you have recyclers?
I don't know that they don't get into that level of detail for waste management.
Okay.
The game decided to skip the level of detail on that section.
I'm just saying if you're going to have sci-fi horror, you got to have sewers, because you just have to have something like a sewer.
Oh, you don't need a sewer. You just need a dark, dank cargo hold.
Or you need maintenance corridors or channels where stuff goes. The first thing that comes to mind, where you had stories that took place on ships where how you're managing what's expelled from humans, not just waste or water, but also CO2, was Nathan Lowell's Tales of the Golden Age of the Solar Clipper. Because, not necessarily a spoiler alert, because that series has been out, I think,
for a very long time.
A lot of us started podcasting, so whatever. But one of the key plot things is environmental challenges with how those waste products were dealt with, and how neglect of those things causes problems.
Deep problems.
Deep problems. Horrible problems.
Extinction problems.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to read about how sewage is dealt with. Matt says, why would you flush things out, recycle everything? Well,
you can.
Another one.
When your ships are only in jump space for a week, it may not be as important. You may just consider your waste product something to be gotten rid of, and when you're back in port, you top everything off.
Or you do this, you flush the human waste into space so we can spread our DNA everywhere, crap all over the universe.
Or you make something serve a purpose. If you've got a long haul ship and you've got some type of garden where you're growing things, some kind of low soil hydroponics, well, there's fertilizer. There's stuff can be sanitized.
Yep.
Or, burned out. And then how do you use what's left?
And plants can naturally filter CO2 and turn it into oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So some level of that, along with a few filters of this, that, and the other, and you might be able to provide enough oxygen for the people on the ship. How many square meters does that take of agrarian, whatever it is, hydroponics or whatnot, to make all that happen? How much oxygen do you need to produce? How much nitrogen, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. So, and then, of course, how does your ship handle radiation, external radiation?
Well, the hull has the ability to have radiation protection on it. You just have to pay for it to be applied.
In Traveler, gotcha.
In Traveler.
Who was it that brought this up? It was Dan. Dan brought up the idea of, and I'm sure somebody else came up with it, of taking the portion of the station that is the generation ship, if you will, and encase it in an outer ring of 100 meters of deep water.
It doesn't, but and I remember because I was on this conversation with Dan and I did the math. It doesn't need to be that. You could have a thickness
I think it's like
of a foot of
5 meters would be
no
5
less.
feet would be enough.
It's like a meter.
Okay.
And so you could have 1 meter of water serving as a radiation insulation. And then, well, the water needs to serve another purpose. So how do you account for that? So have your 1 meter times whatever your volume around the ship, but then you're circulating stuff through that water. So that water could be taking care of your plants. It could be, dealing with some of the refuse. It could be part of the coolant that is taking care of certain electronics or technical systems.
The problem is that depending on how you have it, where you have it, is that it's going to freeze. Heat management in space is a real issue. And unless if that ice is on an exterior surface, or if that water is exterior, it's going to be a block. It's going to be a block of ice, and that's it. You're not going to be able to use it for anything. And honestly, putting that on the surface and letting it freeze may actually be better than trying to use it.
Okay. And that brings up a good point. A meter of water on a ship of any size would add a lot of mass, requiring more energy.
Truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Got to keep the people alive.
It's an
The International
problem,
Space Station has areas that are better protected than others. And when they need to, all of the astronauts evacuate to those protected areas. And the same may be true of other ships.
Does Traveler include basically, oh shit, something happened and we have to get off this thing?
Lifeboats.
Escape ships?
I have
Yeah.
designed escape pods. I've designed
That's what I'm searching
lifeboats.
for.
They don't really exist. They have small craft that a ship may have, but the base system does not seem to take that into account. But the engineers at MixCorp, have solved this problem for you.
Are you tired of dealing with your own ship designer? Does he just absolutely suck? Why not purchase MixCorp plans for X amount of credits or whatever
You should have seen the post I made about robotically piloted shuttles. Are you tired of having innumerable members of the general populace call and complain about how one of your pilots may or may not have impregnated them? Then you need to have MixCorp robot piloted shuttles.
If only you had a podcast, we could do those kinds of bets. Holy shit.
Say goodbye to your shore leave problems and hello to MixCorp.
I had that one as well. But yeah,
I'm tired of those
I've been
bastards
really
being late.
slamming on pilots when I design those and put those ads out.
So actually, this episode of the Dead Robot Society is brought to you by MixCorp. MixCorp for all your spacefaring needs.
And that's a
MixCorp.
wrap.
There you go.
Step into the future or be left in the past.
Ooh,
That's their motto. I already came up with their motto, by God.
that's perfect. That's perfect.
And
He's
when
gonna
is
make bank,
MixCorp getting
folks.
its own storyline?
Who knows? They the Mongoose Traveler people have a periodical that comes out every once in a while called the Journal of the Traveler's Aid Society. And I may write up an article about it. The next time it comes out via Kickstarter, I think I'm going to write up several articles and submit them. Ships, Mixed Corp as a mega corporation wannabe, that sort of thing. We'll see whether or not any of them get published.
Well, I'm at least you've gone through the process. Well, if you have a question,
I'm a little obsessed about this game. What can I say?
Yes, you are. We'll talk about that in After Dark. Yet another thing we have to have an intervention about. If you have a comment or question about this episode, you can find us at deadrobotsociety.com and punch that comments button and leave us an email. Or you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS Podcast, where we are live every Saturday at 3 p.m. CST, except for the
days we're not here.
20th of this month, because Paul will not be here and the others have stuff to do, so we will not be here for the next 2 weeks. I apologize for our tardiness. But
you're going to Costa Rica.
Because I'm going to Costa Rica for an actual vacation. I've been told I am not allowed to write.
What is that? I don't know that I've ever had one of those.
It involves howler monkeys. That's all I know, and I'm terrified.
Oh, and for everyone else, I was going to say something. Now, what was it? If you have comments about Traveler or want to learn more about it, Mongoose Publishing has a forum on their site. It's a great place to go look and see things that are being talked about and ask questions. I'm very active there, as one might imagine.
And, good Lord, stop it already. If you want to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/DRS Podcast and buymeacoffee.com/DRS Podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive live shows like the one coming up in about 8 minutes. And at the $10 level, you get your name read, and our $10 patrons are Juan Valentin, James Terrell, Antoine Batts, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, and Tim Niederreiter. Thank you to all of our patrons for making this show possible.
Pollux would like to throw his hat in the ring on that.
He would. Okay, well, fine. You can let him do that. Well, folks, hope you had a good time. Go check out the links and everything else. Feel free to join our Discord. Links are in the show notes. We'd love to have you. And then you can see the crazy stuff like what he's planted in live. Anyway, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you in 3 weeks.
We'll talk to you in 5 minutes.
Some of you,
And in the meantime, go right.